different parts of the bone make up the leg, including patella, tibia, fibula, calcaneus, talus, cuboid, navicular, and intermediate medial lateral cuneiforms, aka tarsals. Metatarsals, phalanges, including the proximal, middle, and distal segments, and also the femur. Some fun facts and trivia about the leg and feet are that running will form leg muscles faster and better than any other form of exercise, since running uses all the leg muscles. When correctly aligned, your foot arch will support 6 times your body weight. In yoga, the legs up the wall pose not only relieves tired or cramped legs, but also eases anxiety and stress. Women are 4 times likely to have foot problems than men are, mostly due to footwear. Many people have one foot larger than the other, so it's best to fit the larger one while standing. If you're a Christmas Story fan, you'll be surprised to know that all 3 leg lamps were produced for the movie, but sadly none of them survived production and were all broken during filming.
The interosseous plantars, its origin is at the ventral bases of metatarsals 3, 4, and 5. Its insertion is at the proximal phalanges 3, 4, and 5, and its action is that it adducts the toes. For number 2, the interosseous dorsalis, its origin is at the dorsal bases of metatarsals 1 through 4. The insertion is at the proximal phalanges, and its action is that it abducts the toes. For muscle number 3, the tibialis posterior, its origin is superior portion of the tibia and the fibula and the interosseous membrane. For insertion, its tendon passes behind the medial malleolus along the medial tarsals and crosses under the foot at the proximal navicular bone, inserting into the navicular, the plantar cuneiform, and the calcaneus, and it ends at the metatarsal bases. For the action, it flexes the ankle and it inverts the foot. The next muscle is the flexor hallucis longus. Its origin is at the tibialis intermuscular septum, and it's at the margin of the fibular shaft. Its insertion is that it's at the tendon, and it runs under the foot around the talar trochlea to the distal phalanx of the great toe. Its action is that it flexes the great toe. It plantar flexes and inverts the foot, and it helps stabilize the inside of the ankle. The next muscle is the flexor digitorum longus. The origin is at the intermuscular septum and the lateral tibial margin. Its insertion is at the base and the plantar surfaces of the distal phalanges of toes 2 through 5, and its action is that it flexes the toes 2 through 5, and it plantar flexes and inverts the foot. It also enables the foot to firmly grip the ground when walking. The next muscle is the peroneus fibularis brevis. Its origin is distal half the portion of the fibula shaft. Its insertion is that it spirals around the lateral malleolus of the fibula, and it inserts on the proximal end of the 5th metatarsal. Its action is that it plantar flexes and it everts the foot as part of the pronae group. It helps walk on uneven surfaces. For the muscles on the anterior and lateral aspects of the lower leg, the first one is the extensor digitorum longus. Its origin is at the lateral condyle of the tibia and is proximal 3/4 of the fibula and the interosseous membrane. Its insertion is that it's at the tendon, and it divides into 4 parts. It inserts into the middle and the distal phalanges of toes 2 through 5 of the fibula shaft. Its insertion is that it spirals around the lateral malleolus of the fibula, and it inserts on the proximal end of the 5th metatarsal. Its action is that it plantar flexes and it everts the foot as part of the pronae group. It helps walk on uneven surfaces. For the muscles on the anterior and lateral aspects of the lower leg, the first one is the extensor digitorum longus. Its origin is at the lateral condyle of the tibia and is proximal 3/4 of the fibula and the interosseous membrane. Its insertion is that it's at the tendon, and it divides into 4 parts. It inserts into the middle and the distal phalanges of toes 2 through 5. Its action is that it's a prime mover of the toe extension, and it dorsiflexes the foot. The next muscle is the extensor hallucis longus. Its origin is at the anteromedial shaft of the fibula and the interosseous membrane. Its insertion is that it's at the tendon, and it inserts at the base of the distal phalanx of the big toe. Its action is that it extends big toe, and it dorsiflexes the foot. The third muscle is the peroneus longus. Its origin is the lateral tibial condyle in the head and upper portion of the fibula. Its insertion is by the long tendon behind the lateral malleus, underfoot to the first metatarsal in the medial cuneiform. Its action is that it plantar flexes and everts the foot, and it helps keep the foot flat on the floor. The next muscle is the tibialis anterior. Its origin is that it's the lateral tibial condyle up to the edge of the tibial fossa and the fibular head. Its insertion is by a strong round tendon that crosses the ankle and attaches at the base of the first cuneiform and the first metatarsal. Its action is that it extends the ankle and inverts the foot. It lifts the foot clear off the ground as the leg swings forward in walking and running. The next muscle is the plantaris. Its origin is the lateral supracondylar ridge of the distal femur. Its insertion is by a long tendon that joins the medial edge of the Achilles and tendon onto the calcaneus. The action is that it flexes the knee and ankle and laterally rotates the femoral condyles on the tibia. The next muscle is the soleus. Its origin is proximal portion of the tibia and the fibula. Its insertion is a strong tendon that inserts onto the calcaneus, and its action is that it flexes and is an important muscle for locomotion. The last muscle is the gastrocnemius. Its origin is by two heads, the medial head, which is the lower posterior femoral condyle, and the lateral head, which is the lateral lower surface of the femoral condyle. Its insertion is at the calcaneus through the Achilles tendon. It will fuse with the soleus insertion, and its action is that it plantar flexes the foot at the ankle joint. It also assists in knee flexion, and that's all.
To sing about the moon and the June and the spring. I love to sing about a sky. Drink to me only with thine eyes, and I will pledge with mine.
Stop! 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 Enough is too much! Go on and sing about your moon and your June about a string.